Hey everybody, welcome to another bench press series Q&A or bench press Q&A. So any new questions, post to this video and I will answer those next time. So we'll go through this one off the number 2, the questions, okay? The first one is in one of your books, you mentioned not being a fan of seated dumbbell presses because of the awkwardness. Do you prefer kettlebells or dumbbells in this situation? I don't recall saying that. If I did say that, I've changed my tune on that. And because I used, when I did my first 600-pound bench presses, seated dumbbell presses were a very important part of the repertoire. So I do like seated dumbbell presses. I generally had someone, I would have somebody help me up with them. And I also used those power hook deals, but I generally liked it best when I had somebody help me up with it. And I feel like they were helpful in bench press my first 600. Okay, next from Drew, tips for an advanced lifter to increase the bench press. My max is 460, wants to get to 470 to 480. So I can't really go into specifics here because I don't know anything about you. I don't know how long you've been training for. Have you had surgeries? What if, maybe you've had, 6 elbow surgeries or something. Maybe you're perfectly healthy. Maybe you gain fast, maybe you gain slow, that kind of thing. So without knowing more, not really. No, sorry, I'm sorry. Okay, next one's from Jack. Question. What's your opinion of Soviet Russian programming? So we're gonna keep this on this Q&A of what I'm actually doing here with people versus like hypothetical about what somebody else will do. So I'm gonna help you guys by answering exactly what I'm doing, with people and helping people out that way. Okay, so we're gonna stick to the stuff that I'm actually using with people, not evaluating or hypotheticals about anybody else's stuff. Okay, next, this is from Klinkla. Hey Josh, being lifelong drug-free 28-year-old athlete, I've built a 418-pound bench press exclusively on Shiga routines, but I failed to bench 424 on a few different comps. Anyhow, I've completed cycles based on a 424 and 445 as a max. What works best for natties at this strength level? I think you're probably with the Shiko stuff, you're probably gonna be better off in your specific instance. I'm sort of violating what I just said, but since you're talking about yourself here, we'll go into it a little bit. I think you're gonna need more accessory work. So instead of doing like a program with a lot higher bench press frequency, you're probably being limited by by not ever hitting those smaller work with with assistance exercises. So I would do something that does work the accessory movements, not with variations of the bench press and single bench press, not just doing a bunch of bench press multiple times a week. Okay, next was Mike. Is there a height on the dead bench press that you like best, or is it mostly dependent on the athlete? Yeah, it's gonna be dependent on the athlete. So basically, someone with a really short stroke could go down to about as much as a half inch off of their chest. Someone with like longer arms that has a more of a stretch reflex could go to like a 3-inch or so. So in that half inch to 3-inch range is typically where we're gonna want to be, depending on how do you get 21-inch arms naturally? So we're gonna stick mostly to bench press stuff, but I do have something for you here. So for free resource here, go on to the Jailhouse Strong YouTube where you're at right now, and look at the Call to Arms series with Nick Del Toro. It's a great way on he 100% natural bodybuilder in 8 weeks increased his arms an inch. So I would do that. I would also recommend checking out my book, the original Built to the Hilt. It's more about the science of bodybuilding. If you really want to go in depthly, I would also recommend getting my bodybuilding certification through ISSA. Okay, so it's a lot of stuff there. So I would recommend that, and it's going to teach you all the thought process that goes behind it instead of me just answering exactly the answer. Okay, Josh. Just wrote a 12-week program. 6 weeks of density training on bench, squat, and deadlift. Then go into a peaking phase, different than how I've programmed in the past. What are your thoughts on 6-week phases like this? I think it sounds, good. I'm excited to see how it works out for you. I think the logic's sound, and you increase your work capacity in the process, so that can help you with future programs. Hey Josh, in powerlifting style bench press, this is from Brandon. That last one's from Weston. Hey Brandon, hey Josh, in powerlifting style bench press, how do you teach bar path? Is it straight? No, it's an inverted J. So I will go on my blog, and I've written about this before. Just type, Google Josh Bryant plus bar path, but it's not a straight line, okay? Bill, We're talking about raw bench pressing here. Bill asked, hey Josh, is a floor press a good dead bench alternative, and generally what's your take on it? No, the floor press would not be, a good. That's the dead bench. For one, we're trying to eliminate the eccentric phase of the movement, so that takes that completely out of it. Because unless you can fit under a barbell with plates on, you're pushing it up, which you could if I guess if you're real skinny, you could do that, but most people can't. And the floor press is going to introduce that eccentric into it, so it's not a one for one in that regard. The other thing is the floor press is pretty interesting because it depends on your build. So somebody with a huge barrel chest and short arms might be stopping that bar like an inch off their chest. So I guess if you got a long pause in that regard, you would be working bottom end strength. Where somebody with really long arms and not a very thick chest would be working more towards the middle and above end strength or the top end. So it's going to be based on the individual lifter there. Okay, Jay Bell. Hi, Mr. Brian. I'm a 300-pound bencher who started a home gym. I bought a basic barbell, flat bench plates, and squat rack. If you could supplement one or another purchase for bench work, what do you think would be most worthwhile? I'm not totally following exactly what you're saying here, but it sounds like you have a good basic setup here. So if you want to get something else, I might get bands because they're very economical and they're quite versatile. So you can do anything you do with cables, you can do with bands. You can also do resisted stuff, reverse bands, all that stuff. So I would recommend getting some bands and try the Jailhouse Strong routine. Very basic right there, the pig iron routine and Jailhouse Strong. Do you recommend high volume on the bench for a beginner who does not have a great rep max? If you are a hard gainer, you are going to need more volume. So if you're somebody that has a lot of trouble and you have your form down, you're going to need to slowly evolve towards a higher volume program to maximize your gains. Okay. Hey, Matthew. Hey, Josh, how coachable is the bench press through online coaching? Have poor technique and getting a coach soon. Would love to know what to expect. I think it's very coachable through there. I mean, it's not like a snatch or something that's so technical, for one. And for two, if somebody has experience and they know what to look for, I mean, they're going to be able to tell you what you need to do. So I think it's going to be a good experience for you, assuming the person cares about you and what you're doing. Okay, Big C. How long in a peaking phase should someone be training 90% or more of their max? This is going to depend on a few things: on the individual, how they do with higher intensities, what their off season look like. You can't just be training 90% week after week. A lot of times people are, hey, you know what? I bet just bench press, 350, 400, 450, whatever. I want to get to 470, 460, whatever. And they want to keep doing peaking phase after peaking phase and never going with an off season phase. So it's going to depend on the off season phase, and particularly how well that individual does with a higher intensity, and also how frequently you are bench pressing. Okay, what's the minimum amount of time you can do for a meet prep if you only have 1 to 2 days a week to train? That's going to depend on your off season. So if you've gone through a long off season phase and you could also look at it look at it two ways here. So if you've gone through a long off season phase and you're somebody that peaks quickly, it might only need 6-8 weeks. If you're somebody that takes a while to acclimate again, it could be 12 weeks. So generally a meet prep could be about 12 weeks, but once you learn about yourself or whoever's coaching you learns about you, a lot of times that can be expedited shorter, and sometimes, after a long phase, it can be up to 16 weeks. So it's really gonna depend. What's the minimum, here in India, this is Najam. Here in India, even powerlifters are told to train body part specific, chest, shoulders, triceps, like bro split. What do you make training should be like? And then how many weeks, months should one go for his 1 rep max? So I think a good programming about 12 weeks to go for a 1 rep max. And if you've been doing if you've been training this way, you might as well do it every 8 weeks or so. But generally about every 12 weeks or so, you can get a max here. So when you say a bro split, there's a fine line here. Yeah, you don't want to be going full on bodybuilding at the same time. I would not recommend only doing the primary movements. All you do to bench pressing to increase your bench press will be the most important thing you can do. But the secondary accessory movements are very helpful too. So I would not recommend shying away from those either. Okay. Josh, I don't know. Josh, for powerlifting, would you train back after bench or after deadlifts. I personally can train my back a lot harder after deads than bench. Okay, so good rule here. For stuff where your lower back's exposed, so for instance, like T-bar rows, bent over rows, things like that, where they put a lot of strain on your back, I'd recommend doing that in conjunction, post deadlift. However, on stuff like rows that are chest supported, those could be on bench press days, lat pull downs, pull-ups, all those things can be on bench press days. I'm a big fan of upper back work. I think the upper back, for most people can take a licking and keep on taking. Like even someone like Julius Maddox, it takes a little while longer to recover, a very fast gainer, still hitting back, 3 to 4 times a week. So I just think on those bench press days, you cannot expose your lower back with rows and things that tax your lower back. Okay, Dr. 2013. Do you think improving grip strength will help with increasing bench press numbers? I've considered some of the Captain Cup of crushed grippers. To a small extent, possibly. However, you be very careful with those, with your elbows. Because a lot of times when people start doing those too often, too frequently, they end up with elbow pain. You're already putting a lot of strain on your elbows with heavy bench pressing, and then the accompanying, arm work, for accessory movements. So be careful. So even though there's a potential increase there could be a detriment, risk-benefit equation. So be careful. Okay. Where can I buy your books? Okay, so at the bottom of this, this is from Joaquin. Okay, at the bottom of this video, I will put a link to my Amazon page. I have like 20 books. I'll have them all listed there. How often should I do dead presses and how long is a good workout? This is from Crane. Okay, so I would recommend when you're doing dead bench presses, do them once a week and do them, no longer than about 6 or 8 weeks at a time. So, if you, say you're doing it, 3-week block, you can do them in there, do your reload week, then another 3-week block, do them there. And that'd be sufficient. Oftentimes even one block will be enough to get a nice gain out of those. So I do them just once a week. How long your workout is going to be is going to depend on, your strength levels and how many people you're working out with and things like that. So, some of the really big bench pressers take a really long time to work out. So my recommendations that have changed, I wouldn't be so concerned. Just get your work done and do not lollygag around. Get full recovery between your bench press sets unless otherwise programmed. You can take little shorter ones on your single joint accessory movements. Okay. Anthony Caruso, are there any guidelines you would find rep maxes at different percentages to determine if you were a hard gainer or a fast gainer? Okay, so I think that's a good question. So what we're looking at there is basically, if you're doing like with 80% of your max on something, if you're doing, 6, 7 reps, 8 reps even or less, you're definitely a fast gainer. If you start getting to like 12 to 15, you're more of a slow gainer. In between there, you're not either. So it's funny because people that are like fast, slow gainers in lifting are often not, I guess when they're slow gainers in lifting, they're all often not slow gainers compared to the population at large. What I mean by that is most people like things and are attracted to things they're good at. So they have a natural inclination towards it. So there's not as many true slow gainers in lifting because the true slow gainers are kind of fast gainers sort of compared to the population at large. But use that guideline. Also, just put in my blog here, just Google Josh Bryant plus fast gainer. I did a newsletter on this. You can get my free newsletter and it will come up in a blog here. So the next one was Elliot. Hi Josh, love your info and books. I'm about to start another round of a 12-week limit strength program focused on bench and squat. I'm fairly tall and long-armed, and I typically fail into the bench lockout. I incorporate close grip bench press as a starter on my secondary bench day. I would say I should try switching something like a close grip 2 or 3 board with just a light touch and pause on the bottom and nail the triceps a bit harder. I tried JM presses, but they really hurt my elbows. What rep progression do you recommend for 12 weeks? So I would say like this. You can try the board presses with a close grip. You can also try close grips resisted via bands or chains. So that will put a hellacious overload at the top and then take a little pressure off the bottom, but allow you to keep in that full range of motion movement. You can also try some isometrics or some functional isometrics, okay? So Sock 1970. I gotta tell you, Josh, 50 years of age, I'm making more bench gains than ever before. and mainly due to your recommendation of dead stop presses, and mainly close grips like 3 to 6 second hold at lockout from 1, 3, and 5 inches. I believe closing on the 400-pound bench. And that your max was 25 years ago. Well, I'm not going to answer any question here. I think that's an excellent job. Okay, so now ISSA certification. This is your Saul Ackerman. Okay, it's the ISSA bodybuilding specialist. But remember, with my bodybuilding course, there is a much more of a strength-based approach. It talks about the importance of using strength in the off season. So I can put a link at the bottom of this for the ISSA bodybuilding specialty course that I authored. It's a very extensive course. And remember, the difference would be the strength is the baseline here. Okay. Next. Okay. Okay. 2 questions about, I'm kind of running out of time here. So there's 2 questions about shoulder strength. Okay. So generally, here's the thing. Shoulder strength does matter for the bench press. How strong should they be? I think a good reference would be early on 70% of your 1 rep max. Now, does that mean like with Julius Maddox, I'm gonna have, when he gets 800 pounds, I'm gonna have him doing, overhead presses with 560 pounds? No, that's like, if someone gets that far outside the norm, no. But like when you're coming up, if you can maintain about 70% of your overhead press is 70%, so you're benching 300, you're overhead pressing 210. Okay. I'm gonna do a couple more here, but so if I didn't answer your question this time, make sure I can't do any more here. I'm running out of time because I don't even have time to check these before I start. I literally just pull in a laptop here and look at those. I start at the bottom, so the people that ask first, make sure they got questions answered. If I didn't answer you, repost this back to this video right away, and I'll get it next time. I'm doing the best I can here, but it's 17 minutes and 6 seconds, and unfortunately, this is not, it's not my full-time job sit here, because I can't just sit here and do other stuff to do today with actual, work with clients and things. So thanks for everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate the support and the kind words. And if I missed you this time, make sure to post again, and I will make sure to get you next time. Thank you.